it's 12:40. Fancy a cuppa, Tom?
Oh, I don't mind if I do.
Well, Ed Miliband might have something to say about that, Tom.
Really?
Yeah, a new report today reveals that people will have to restrict when they boil the kettle, or perhaps when they choose to wash their clothes, to help him reach his 2030 clean energy targets, don't you know?
Well, this is all due to an investigation by the National Energy System Operator. It claims that to stay on track with Labour's Clean Power plan, households and businesses must reduce power usage at peak times, not just by a little bit, but by sixfold.
Sixfold, OK. Well, Lord Frost has already voiced his concerns on X. He's warned the public, get ready to sacrifice your living standards for the sake of Ed Miliband's 5-year plan. OK, well...
For more on this, we're joined by the Director of Net Zero Watch, Andrew Montford. Andrew, thanks for joining us. Clearly, we're undergoing a huge transition in a very short space of time. In your view, is it feasible?
No, this is absolutely for the birds. There is absolutely no way that this can be delivered by 2030. It's extremely unlikely it can be delivered by 2050. Ed Miliband is a fanatic, and he's saying these things. And I think National Grid know which side their bread is buttered on, so they're kind of going along with it. But if you actually read through the detail of their report, it's not nearly as supportive of Ed Miliband as perhaps the headlines have made out. It actually suggests that even if you take into account the cost of global warming, that we would be better off not doing this. The system costs are less doing nothing than going ahead with this absolutely crazy project. So rationally, we would say stop here. But of course, that's not going to happen. The costs that people are going to have to bear are frightening. I mean, the report suggests £40 billion a year. So that's £1,300 per household. And that's just for the energy system. I mean, all the rest of net zero, which Mr. Miliband wants to do as well, that's going to be probably 4 times as much. So we're talking £5,000, £6,000 per household per year. I mean, this is impossible. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem, OK, you may have to use less power at times, so don't cook at a peak time, or, don't do your washing at a peak time. We may suffer higher bills. In the short term, though, the ambition is that they all come down if we invest in all this green tech. We'll see a few more wind farms and solar panels. We may have to move to heat pumps instead of our gas heating. There may be some power blackouts during this transition, but we'll get there in the end. And there will be some new green jobs as well to look forward to, Andrew. It's not all bad.
Yeah, I mean, blackouts are blackout here and there. I mean, yes, it doesn't really matter, does it? No, I mean, it is quite frightening. I mean, it's scary what's going on at the moment. We have no wind at the moment, and pretty much no sun either. So, and electricity prices are soaring. It's not clear whether we are actually going to be forced not to boil kettles or have a shower in the evening, but it may just be that it becomes unaffordable to do so. There's a lot that we haven't been told yet, and I don't think anybody actually really knows. What they are telling us is that
Andrew, energy companies actually are already encouraging. Sorry to interrupt, but some energy companies are already sort of writing to people saying you can save a bit of cash if you don't use your electricity at this time and that. So could it just be a sort of that more people adopt that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't know, if you were paid, a few, a £1 or something, would you be willing to sit there in the dark or I mean, it's kind of hard.
Andrew, are you ignoring one of the big changes that's happening across many households on the country? People who have installed their own solar powers and indeed their own batteries in their homes. Could it be that actually, in a fairly short amount of time, it might be much, much more standard for every home to come with its own battery? You then can use your own electricity whenever you want, because you take it on from the grid when it's cheap and use it at your convenience.
OK, so at the moment, as I said, there's no wind and there's no sun. And the weather forecast is suggesting it will continue like that probably for 10 days. Now, the size of battery you'd need to deal with that is absolutely enormous. In reality, the kind of battery you put in your house lasts a few hours. So if you didn't have a grid connection as well, you would be absolutely stuffed. After 24 hours, you would be sitting there in the dark with literally nothing. So you need to keep your grid connection. Now, the problem is with that, if you use your battery the rest of the time, then the electricity that comes down the grid to you is going to be much more expensive, because all that cost is not going to be used very much. It's only going to be used at times when the wind isn't blowing. And yeah, the costs of everything goes up. You've got to remember also, those batteries and solar panels are not cheap. This is not a cheap way of running your house.
No, and a lot of people have only got them because they had lots of grants going, haven't they, in the last decade or so. Andrew Montford...
And they like virtue signalling is the other thing. It's
well, I'm not
way.
sure my aunt and uncle like virtue signalling. I think they just thought it might help them a bit.
Save a few pennies.
Andrew Montford, thank you very much, Director of Net Zero Watch. Always great to have you on. Thank you. Norfolk